fourth graders. This is Miss Lane. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to read to you chapter 12 from Soft Rain, Cherokee Trail of Tears by Cornelia Cornelissen. Hope you're enjoying the book. It's a great book. It's an important part of our history as well. Time to go, it's time to go. Though Soft Rain heard mother's voice, she continued dancing while grandmother and Green Fern watched. Step, step, toe down, heel down. Faster and faster she moved, rattling the pebbles in the terrapin shells tied to her legs. Shucka, shucka went the pebbles, shucka, shucka. From far away she heard mother's voice again. Wake up, Soft Rain, the chief just came to tell us it's time for us to go. Reluctantly, Soft Rain opened her eyes and sighed. It had been a pleasing dream. She ate her morning bread in near darkness, for the sun was not yet awake. In the dimness, she watched the preparations for her journey west. Wagons were loaded with baskets and boxes of supplies. Then the people, unable to walk the trail, soon crowded into the wagons, and drivers inspected the wheels before climbing aboard. The chief rode back and forth from the front of the line to the rear, giving orders to the drivers and other leaders. The sun was high overhead before he told Mother, Soft Rain, and Aunt Key to get in line. When Soft Rain heard his call, "Move on," echoing down the line of waiting Cherokee, she turned for a last look at the mountains she was leaving behind. They wound their way through the dense woods along the Hiwassee River until they heard cries. Take off your moccasins. Wade in, all children in the wagons for the crossing. Before she knew it, Soft Rain was lifted into a wagon that was just starting across. Mother and Aunt Key waded into the river, only able to keep from tumbling into the swirling water by holding onto a rope someone had tied to the wagon. With the first jolt, Soft Rain fell into a stranger's hands that held her tightly during the crossing, keeping her from being tossed about. You are safe, little one, the stranger said. But Soft Rain didn't feel safe, and she didn't look at the stranger who tried to comfort her. She couldn't bear to open her eyes, fearful of seeing the Yuktane, bright crested forehead, and even more fearful of seeing Mother or Aunt Key carried away by the river. Okay, I don't really know how to say that, Yuktane, but that's the snake river that, like a Cherokee myth that they're afraid of, that lives in the water, a sea monster that lives in the water. When she was last helped from the wagon, she ran to Mother's outstretched arms. Did you see the Yuktana? She stammered. It said that the Yuktana live in calmer waters, Mother answered. They slept beside the river. Soft Rain felt safe again, lying between Mother and Aunt Key, listening to their gentle snoring. On the afternoon of the third day, another call echoed along the line of Cherokee. The Tennessee River, the people cried. Soft Rain gasped when she saw the wide river and the odd-looking flatboats approaching the shore. I will wade across the river, too. I will not go on the white man's boat, Aunt Key exclaimed. The next day, a dense fog rolled over the river. Until it lifted, no one could cross. Late in the day, when the walkers were able to board, Soft Rain took Aunt Key's hand in hers. Stay with me, she said. Aunt Key gently squeezed Soft Rain's fingers as they walked into the boat together. Soft Rain stepped cautiously over the planks until she reached a railing. Looking down at the water, she searched for the Yuktana, which she didn't see any horned monsters. She closed her eyes, not opening them until she felt the boat stop. As she left the boat, she saw the chief giving money to the white man who had guided it. She wondered why they were paying to be taken where they didn't want to go. Across rivers, valleys, and mountains, the soldier with the shiny belt buckle had said. He was right. Since the river crossing many days earlier, they had climbed several mountains, steep mountains, He hadn't said that the wagons would get stuck in the streams or to be pushed up the rocky hills, that the animals would be beaten when they couldn't pull the load, and that the old people would have to trudge up the rough roads. He hadn't said that the nights would be so cold. While Mother and Aunt Key made their packs for the day, Soft Rain's gaze fell on two old ones, grandmothers, being carried away to be buried in shallow mountain graves. There was no time to bury the dead properly, for each morning they started walking early. The old ones reminded Soft Rain of grandmother. In her mind she saw grandmother sitting by the hearth, telling stories and putting her hands on Soft Rain's face. "So I can see you laughing," she always said. Soft Rain blinked away the tears, thinking that at least her grandmother would not die far away from home. There was another mountain to walk down that day. On the winding road, Soft Rain could see the long line of Cherokee they followed. She'd become used to hearing low cries and moans, but was startled by an eerie death wail coming from beside the trail. There she saw a young, barefoot woman kneeling by a small grave. "They were just babies," she screamed. "My babies. It was my fault. I had no milk for the little one." Mother and Aunt Key hurried to her side. "How long have you been here?" Mother asked. "The older one died 4 days ago," she sobbed, "right after the baby was gone. He coughed and couldn't breathe." Her hands smoothed the hard earth of the little grave. "They were buried together. When the others left, I couldn't leave my babies by themselves." Aunt Key helped the woman stand, then whispered to her words Soft Rain could not hear. Mother gave her a small piece of meat with bread. "You can do nothing more here. Come with us," she said, putting her arm around the young woman. Soft Rain found a stick which stood upright between the stones on the grave, to mark the place, she thought. As they walked slowly away down the mountain, the mother kept turning back until the small grave was no longer in sight. Soft Rain took her trembling hand. For a part of each day, Soft Rain held the woman's hand as they walked, hoping to be a comfort to her. Late one afternoon, while crossing a small stream, she heard the woman groan as she bathed her bleeding feet. Pointing to a nearby wagon, Soft Rain said, "Those are shoes in some of the boxes on the wagons. When they forced us from our home, the soldiers did not give us time to dress properly or take any belongings with us." The woman cried, "I will take nothing from the white man, the Unakas." That's what Aunt Key said until her moccasins wore through. I could see her toes. Mother finally persuaded her to take shoes. At first they were so stiff they blistered her feet, but now she walks well in them. The woman grunted. Though black clouds darkened the sky early, they walked on. When the rain began, Soft Rain was still holding the woman's hand. The blanket Mother threw over their shoulders kept them dry for a while. Evening came and rain continued. That night the 4 of them crowded into a tent they were given. It kept the rain off, but the ground was cold and wet. When morning came, there was more rain and mud, days of trudging through mud until at last the line slowed to a stop. They heard groans, murmurings, voices sang, "River, another river to cross." Well, this chapter certainly paints a picture of how miserable and sad the trip was. And even though it was hard on all the Cherokee, I imagine that it was hardest on the elderly and on the very young. So this young mother lost her children on the Trail of Tears. And I can't remember exactly how many died. I want to say 4,000, but I can't remember. I'll try to look that up for tomorrow. And tomorrow we get to read one of my favorite chapters of the book, The Barn. So make sure that you tune in and as we read and enjoy this book together. Thank you. Good night.